I'm Steve Johnson, News Director for theDove TV. Check out our other videos and visit our website at thedove.us. Thanks.
Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and as always, a delight to have with us Dr. Joel Klein. He is a physician with Ventana Wellness here in Medford, and that's ventanawellness.com. It's a great resource, and we're here to talk about antibiotics. But before we do, Doc,
yes,
how
okay.
are you? We had quite the story this morning about the flu shot.
Right.
What's your opinion?
I think that, there have been studies that I saw, actually was researching one, that really didn't show any difference in death rates from like 1980 on, that it didn't make as much of a difference, but I think there's some controversy about that, and maybe some other evidence out there. I really don't think that everybody needs one. I think I still reserve them for the sicker patients, for people who have real potential medical complications, obviously chronic lung disease, diabetics, people who would be, if they got the flu, would be really sick, older and infirm types of people. I mean, when they talk about with kids, the thing that they found was they did miss a few less school days with the shot, but that was it. And I understand that. I just philosophically don't see pumping us all full of antigens. We save a few school days. There's still some, circumstantial evidence and all that too many vaccines are overstimulating the other side of the immune system. That may be part of why we have more autoimmune illness. There's not we don't have good proof. They're not studying it that way. But I just try to do what's really necessary, in my opinion.
It always pops up this time of the year.
Right.
Should I get the flu shot? We've talked to those who got the flu shot and got the flu.
Well, part of the thing, or did they really get the flu? I mean, all the flu shot is protecting you from is those strains of influenza A or virus that they are predicting based on worldwide patterns are going to be what causes a problem. So number one, it's a very educated guess. They may completely miss the boat on terms of what strains cause it, and it's not going to protect you from the 400 strains of rhinoviruses and things that cause upper respiratory infections, that cause all these other kind of problems. And again, we've commonly over the years called gastroenteritis stomach flu. It's not really the flu. We've just kind of used that term. So it's only protecting you against true influenza infections. So I think some of that's a misunderstanding.
All right. Well, I have never taken the flu shot. So I think I got the flu one time, and I was sick, there's no question about it, but I've never had the flu shot. I just take gallons of vitamin C.
Well, there's some things, there's actually some other products and things, or actually the nutritional supplement N-acetylcysteine in one small study, they gave it helps increase glutathione production by the liver, which is the main detoxifying compound. And patients who took that through the winter did as well, in terms of avoiding illness, it worked as well as a flu shot. So I think there are ways, but if you're not going to take care of yourself, if you're going to eat poorly, if you're going to overstress, especially over the holidays, you're going to do all these things to yourself, and then say, oh, but I'm not going to, do that, then, just like everything else, I think you're rolling the dice.
All right, well, that kind of a good segue what we want to talk about today, and that's antibiotics. In some way, isn't the flu shot a great big antibiotic?
No, well, that's the problem. The problem, antibiotic has really become to mean antibacterial. That's the way all the drugs that we call antibiotics are really antibacterials. They're not antiviral. They're not antifungal, although antibiotic technically means against life. Okay. But what we're talking about is antibacterial agents. And obviously, this is every year, we're coming into that time of year where people do get more illnesses now. Why is that? That's another question. As I like to tell people, Louis Pasteur at the end of his life even said that it was the host, not the bug, that was the main factor in infections. So what's happening with people's immune systems? Eat, stress, physical stress of the environmental changes, weather changes and all that, and what that's doing to the immune system. But beyond the CDC warnings, and the CDC's trying to get out there. So we shouldn't be using all these antibiotics for viral infections.
Okay,
But
so why did you select antibiotics? I mean, you're a doctor, you prescribe them.
this is the problem. I try to use them very sparingly. They are overused. People are desperate to give me something to knock this out, when most of what they have is viral infections. And then whether there's a secondary infection, how much difference the antibiotic really makes. We tried to do a small study, I remember at my residency, of whether giving people with bronchitis erythromycin really made a difference. And it was really kind of a mixed bag as to how much did it really make a difference or not. And besides the whole problem that many people are becoming more aware of creating more and more resistant bacteria, because we've been using these antibiotics for now 50-60 years, and we have to use, way higher doses, by 10 times or so, the doses of penicillin that we used when we first were able to give it, because the bugs have become resistant. But beyond that, for me, because the factor that doesn't get advertised as much, and a lot of people who are into natural medicine know, that is what the antibiotics actually do to our bodies that's negative. And I spend a lot of my practice actually undoing the damage of what antibiotics have done to people to actually result in chronic inflammatory autoimmune and gastrointestinal problems.
Those of us, sooner or later, who have had to use them, and I just went through a series of them, and I read the page. I actually read the page. And I thought, well, why in the world am I taking this?
Well, they have to give you all that. No, actually, the main issue for me is not the life-threatening allergic reactions. We have these things, or other side effects that, are on that page. What's not on that page is the destruction of the healthy bacteria in your gut and overgrowth of unhealthy organisms that then start to promote an environment in the gut where we develop more and more allergies to foods, particularly the foods we eat every day, gluten, dairy, corn, and soy, that the allergy is an inflammatory type of allergy that then produces all kinds of inflammatory, even diseases and autoimmune diseases in many people. And that's my issue. So it's not only just the overuse of antibiotics, but if you really need them, there are things that should be done. Even with you, what we would have talked about, we still may need to do, are the use of probiotics to replace the good bacteria when we're taking the antibiotics, but there's a right way to do that because you have to separate them, and even using other medications like antifungals to help prevent the overgrowth of fungal species in the gut.
I was going to go to probiotics, but let me stick on antibiotics just for a moment. So often when you're issued a prescription of antibiotics, one of the fingers in the face is make sure you take all of it.
Right.
Why?
Because, at least when it's been studied, if you don't completely eradicate the infection, the thought is now what bugs are left are now resistant bugs, and it's going to be worse.
Oh, comes back with a vengeance.
Right, so especially like a sinus infection, and you get 80% there, but you don't get all the way. Now, what bacteria are in there that then can continue to overgrow may be more resistant to the bug. It's pros and cons, because sometimes we do overtreat and give longer courses. Certainly, a lot of times what had to do with what was medically studied back in the days when penicillin would treat the strep in order to prevent rheumatic fever. Turned out it didn't do anything for the kidney disease. It was determined at one point you needed to take a full 10-day course in order to prevent the rheumatic fever. So that's why.
Okay.
Told that.
All right. So if somebody has been on an antibiotic for a period of time, or maybe multiples, who knows, whatever the problems may be, should they go through a cleansing?
Well, it depends on what you call cleansing. But I would certainly be using probiotics. And depending, if there's somebody who doesn't have a lot of medical problems and they're actually doing fairly well, especially if they've been on multiple courses or extended courses, there are natural, what they would call candida cleanse. There are things to actually kill the overgrowth of fungal species in the gut, which is just now starting to be accepted in some circles of medicine. Some gastroenterologists are coming around saying, I think this is actually a real thing. This has been an issue since the late 80s when William Crook originally wrote the book, The Yeast Connection, making this determination that we have a significant amount of issues with overgrowth of yeast. So depending on how the person is, I don't think everybody needs to do a full cleanse, certainly, but if they've been on a lot, then some of these candida cleanses, but people tell me which one, I don't know which ones are good. My patients who actually more have multiple medical problems, I'm actually giving them prescription antifungal drugs like the same thing we give babies for thrush to help clean out their guts.
Wow. All right, let me take a break. We'll be right back. We're with Dr. Joel Klein. By the way, he's with Ventana Wellness. You can go to ventanawellness.com. It's a great resource. You're looking for a great doctor. Here's one right here. And we're going to come back and talk about probiotics. Really popular. I'm reading a lot about it.
Right, absolutely. It's even in the medical literature and other things that we'll talk about too.
And the other thing I learned about probiotics is read the label.
Yeah.
They're not all the same.
They're not all the same.
Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back with Dr. Joel Klein. He's a physician with Ventana Wellness, and we're talking about antibiotics, and now we're going to go into probiotics. If you have a quick question, we can take your phone call. The phone number to get through to Dr. Klein on the air is 541-776-5770. That's the new number to get through to the studio here, 776-5770. All right, probiotics, Dr. Klein, everything I read is positive.
Right.
Everything I read
this is why we've been using all these antibiotics for so many years. Everybody's guts are disturbed, or the antibiotics that are in our food. If we're not, if you're eating meat or, animals that have been injected with antibiotics, because they grow more. It's that interesting. Giving animals antibiotics makes them fat. This is why they give them. Why would one think that is? And what's it done to us, and how much is that contributing to obesity? Yeah. So, and they aren't giving the probiotic. Well, I think I don't know, a lot of farmers and a lot of people may be doing that now because they've realized. But if you're fattening up an animal, that's the thing, you give them an antibiotic. Another long story about metabolism, but a lot of obesity and diabetes may be, or one big part of it is the changes that happen in the gut. But the probiotics can be very important. The problem is we've talked about, how do you know that you're getting a good one? And I don't have a real good way of discerning that either. I work with companies that I trust. You'll hear various things out there. The studies that are done are usually done on some proprietary type of thing, typically, that the company owns obviously patents to and things like that. One of the main important things for me most of the time is, though, you want probiotics that have organisms for both the upper and the lower tracts. So everybody knows about acidophilus. Lactobacillus acidophilus is an upper GI tract organism. The lower GI tract, the main organism, are what are called bifidobacterium species. So the good probiotics, because a lot of these issues happen in the colon as well, are going to have both the lactobacillus and the bifidobacterium.
So that's something you want to look for.
Yeah, and you want, at least several billion organisms in there. Now, for really sick folks, people with inflammatory bowel disease and all that, we'll get up to 20, 40 billion organisms. And there's an expensive but really potent probiotic out there people use with inflammatory bowel disease.
Now, is this a prescription? A lot of it's over the counter.
No, it's almost all over the counter. There's one, like I said, there's VSL number 3, where the double strength form, which is like 450 billion units, can be written by prescription. Most of the time, I don't think insurance is covered anyway. But no, most of the time, this is an over-the-counter.
Is there a side effect to this? Can you OD on it?
You can't OD, but some people are sensitive. Their guts are so disordered that you'd give them a probiotic and it gives them gas, it gives them problems, it gives them all kinds of other things. So you can have adverse effects from it. All that tells me is that you really have a gut that needs more serious rehabilitation, and we need to do some other work, both with diet, with some other types of supplements that help support acid, enzymes, and some of these types of things.
All right, so if you're bringing somebody off of a heavy antibiotic, should you clean them before you put them on a probiotic?
No, I tell people start the probiotic as soon as at the same time as you're taking the antibiotic.
Really?
Immediately. Okay. In fact, a lot of antibiotic, people will know a drug called Augmentin, which is amoxicillin and this clavulanic acid, famous for causing diarrhea in patients. Most patients who take the probiotic at the same time don't get the diarrhea.
Really?
The trick is to separate the probiotic dose from the antibiotic by about 4 hours. Otherwise, the antibiotic will kill the probiotic.
Oh.
So a lot of these drugs, if they're once or twice a day, I'll have people take it breakfast and dinner and then take their probiotic at bedtime.
Is a probiotic something you take constantly?
Some people do. Well, some people have had long-term problems. They have long-term inflammatory disease, other issues, or they have digestive issues, find that they do better, when they do. The original probiotic was yogurt that mom made fresh the night before. They've been doing it in India for thousands of years, and they learned that the health of the family depended upon this daily dose of probiotic.
Is that why the Greek yogurt is so popular now?
I don't. I haven't researched about what the Greek. I don't know how much of it is marketing, as most things in this day and age are. But certainly, from what I know from Indian culture, one of the most valuable things that mom gave her daughter when she was going off to be married and start her own family were the yogurt cultures.
Right.
Because they knew the health of the whole family depended on those.
Well, all right. So when you're looking for a probiotic and you're in the health food section, you should be looking for one that has the ingredients for both upper and lower tract.
You want the lactobacillus, the acidophilus. It'll say L. acidophilus, and now they have all kinds of other species, L. bulgaricus, and some of these others, and the bifidobacterium as well.
Okay, and pretty much take what they prescribe on the bottle.
Yeah, again, unless you really, a lot of times, but the problem is they're being forced because of FDA rules and all that, just to tell people one a day, no matter what the dose is. So if people who are very knowledgeable about this can do that, or you might want to talk to somebody who's a professional who knows. A lot of times people need more than what's on there.
All right, we had a caller that wants to know the difference between an antibiotic and an anti-inflammatory.
Well, antibiotics kill bacteria. Anti-inflammatories are drugs like ibuprofen, naproxen, Aleve, and those are actually supposedly treating inflammation. The connection here is what I was saying is that the antibiotics cause changes in the gut that can lead to inflammation. And actually those changes in the gut are made worse by the anti-inflammatories.
All right.
So they both can adversely affect the gut, but they do completely different things.
All right, Jean, did I help you? Did I ask that right?
Sorry, no, I didn't. I didn't expect to get the answer that quick. I was doing something else. The problem is I've had a lot of leg pain, both legs, a serious pain. I've had MRIs, X-rays, and now they say there's some bursitis and some arthritis. But I've had 4 steroid shots over the last 6 months.
You likely have food issues, these deeper inflammatory food allergies, things in your gut over the many years of being exposed to drugs, high processed food diets and the like that have caused changes in your gastrointestinal tract. I guess which camera should I be looking into?
Just talk to me.
That are causing this kind of body-wide inflammation that's showing up in different areas. So that needs to be addressed by somebody who knows what they're doing.
Right. So the original question, what's the difference between antibiotics? I've had these steroid shots, which are anti-inflammatory.
Anti-inflammatory.
Are they supposed to be doing any good or what?
They are punching out the oil light on the dashboard of your car instead of putting oil in it, and they're actually making things worse. They're helping you short term, but steroids are one of the things that make the changes in the gut worse too, so they can actually accelerate the problem over time. They're very good for short-term relief, but you pay a price.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go, Jane. I'd give him a call.
Thank you for your help.
Thank
you. Well, that's quite a statement.
Well, this is antibiotics, steroids, cortisone drugs, and birth control pills are the 3 main pharmaceuticals that disturb the environment in the gut that can create this pro-inflammatory state, and also in women in particular tends to also cause disturbances in their hormone system. And a lot of women's hormonal issues, both premenopausal in particular, but also post, come from these changes in the gut as well.
So a person like Jean, who's doing a lot of antibiotics and anti-inflammatory, is a probiotic good for her right now?
That'll be a start. My impression is that would be a good start, but for somebody like her, as I like to tell patients, it's like Roy Scheider in Jaws, you're going to need a bigger boat.
Okay.
But that would be a start. But I think somebody like that is going to need more gut rehabilitation. They may need prescription antifungals. From my standpoint, they can do natural cleanses. They're just going to take longer. And she probably needs an elimination diet. And really starting with gluten, number 1, and like I say, dairy, corn, and soy, but gluten tends to be, now we're discovering more and more, one of the worst aggravators.
Wow. All right, so there's a good possibility people are moving towards probiotics just as general health. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah, I don't think there's a problem. The worst that's going to happen is nothing. So I don't think there's no harm in doing it. Whether it's going to help your problem or make a difference, that remains to be seen. But I don't think there's any harm in doing it.
Is there any one particular ingredient that inflames all of this? And I'm primarily thinking sugar. Is that?
Sugar feeds the bad bugs.
Okay.
So if you're already fostering the growth of these anaerobic bacteria and fungal species in particular in the gut, sugar just adds gas to the fire and helps them grow even more. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So the bottom line is probiotics, thumbs up. Everything I read about it's good. I'm getting affirmed here by the doctor, and I guess you could recommend to them certain brands. Yeah, we could talk about, to talk about, and you can't do this probiotic, but even in very forward-thinking medical studies and things are now looking, the ultimate probiotic is actually a fecal transplant of taking the stool from a healthy person and transplanting it into the gut of an unhealthy person to give them those bacteria. Wow. But that's kind of, well, I've even just heard something, they're thinking about putting it in a pill form. We'll have to see how well that goes over, but that's the importance of good bacteria and what they're finding. All right, so it's a plus. Listen, before I let you go, I'm totally off the wall here. Your thoughts on Ebola? Have you done any research on it? Not really. I think that it's something that's obviously it's a public health issue that we've once again been caught with our pants down. That was a bigger problem, and just the systems were not in place properly to deal with it in this country because we thought we were just kind of okay and all that. Now we're just realizing, oh, we really need to be more serious about this. And it is a serious disease. Oh, sure. It's obviously life-threatening. So what is it? It's a virus. Okay. But the problem is it has a 3-week incubation period. So somebody can be exposed and it won't develop symptoms for 3 weeks. But it can only be spread by direct contact, and people are only infectious when they're actually exhibiting symptoms because they're shedding it in their stool in particular and all that. Again, at this point, we don't know, or we don't believe it's airborne. No, there's no evidence that it is airborne at this point. You're going to hear conspiracy theories and things like that, but at this point, there's no evidence. Well, Joel, you're a wealth of information, Dr. Klein, and again, VentanaWellness.com is a great resource if you're looking good for a great doctor who's really got the balance together. Here's one right here, and the probiotics, thumbs up, but you're basically, what I'm hearing you say, look for the one that treats the upper gut and the lower gut. Yeah, but the main thing here today is really we need to dial back our urge to take the antibiotics to treat every infection that comes our way. Right. Because that's where the problem lies. I mean, there are people who need them. You need to do the right things if you're going to take one, but most infections don't need an antibiotic. Okay. Wow. There's a statement. I just captured that one, and we'll make a spot out of it. I mean, people ask me all the time, "Do I need this?" No, but you might. You're obviously you want it, or But I would. If you take care of yourself, which most people can't afford to do, may have to take some time off work, may have to do some other things. You can get over those infections, but the problem is we're dealing with those kind of issues. Last question: the person who's been on a heavy regime of antibiotics. Start taking the probiotics. Start with the probiotics, but I probably need this if they're having any other problems, I probably need to see them about other things to help rehabilitate their gut. Okay. Thank you, my friend. You bet. All right, and again, VentanaWellness.com. If you need to check out the website, it's a great resource, and again, that's where you can contact Dr. Joel Klein. We'll be right back. As an example.